Hello, and I'm so sorry that I can't give this Shabbat worship service live as I usually do, but I thank you very much for this understanding. This is my pre-recorded sermon, which I'll give in a moment. Okay, so this week we have a double portion of Tazria and Mztora, and I really struggle with these portions. As you will see throughout this sermon, there are numerous layers in which I struggle. And I want to offer a bit of a trigger warning for myself and you all, because I'm about to delve deep into some difficult themes. So here we go. Leviticus is interested in something we call ritual purity. This is not to be confused with actual cleanliness, which can be fixed through soap or even hand sanitizer. Ritual purity is a sort of state of being. You can be pure, which in Hebrew is tahor, or impure, which is tameh. So in order to enter into the Mishkan, which is the place where the Israelites communicate with God, one has to be pure, or tahor. But there are lots of ways to prevent one from being pure. For example, if you have a skin rash, you are no longer tahor, but are considered tameh, which is impure. A skin rash can change your state of being. The good news is that no one is impure forever. The bad news is that the state of being pure and impure is heavily gendered. This week's portion is interested in childbirth and the bleeding that goes with it. The Israelites have a strange and almost horrid fascination with blood. Dr. Elaine Goodfriend, who is a professor of Near Eastern Studies, writes, "The common denominator regarding all the physical conditions that produce impurity is their association with the nexus of life and death. In the Torah, blood is synonymous with life. Since women exist in this nexus of life and death, one would assume this could make women holy, or even holier than men. But it actually has the opposite effect, according to the ancient Israelite priests, who were all men. Women are regularly impure at least once a month, and are impure after childbirth, according to these ancient Israelite priests. So now here comes another kind of strange twist. Unfortunately, gender matters again. If a boy is born, then a woman is ritually impure for 7 days. If a girl is born, then a woman is ritually impure for 14 days, double the amount of time. Now, I found a lot of commentators who essentially apologize for this. Ancient rabbis believed that male embryos grew double the speed than female embryos. Modern commentators express their belief in the power of the female form, taking longer because it's more powerful. Other scholars point to similar practices throughout the world during the same time. And I struggle with sort of the apology view of it, because I don't think apologizing for this passage is entirely appropriate here. Though I'm certainly sorry it exists, especially since this verse has been a source and excuse for the biased way in which traditional Judaism has treated women. And Dr. Elaine Goodfriend continues here. The view that women, via their normal, reoccurring bodily functions, generate a pollution antagonistic to holiness, served as a justification for women's distance from the sacred throughout Jewish history. Now, Dr. Goodfriend is not just referring to the priesthood, but a more modern example is that women are not allowed to touch the Torah in Orthodox Judaism. So, I struggle with this, obviously. However, I always believe that we should run towards and not away from difficult biblical passages. So here I go. This passage gives me a black eye. It has enabled bias and unequal treatment of women in Judaism. But it also clearly shows us a few things. First, all of the Torah was written by men. And it is a patriarchal book no matter how we look into it. Second, women bearing and laboring life is a huge mystery for priests who see blood as a source of life and fear it, when it leaves the body. And third, what people do not understand, they tend to fear. In ancient Israel, men shaped ritual policy, protocols, and practices, which was based around what they understood. And we give them credit for understanding a lot of important things, like quarantining a person for 7 days if they have a skin rash, so that that person does not give it to someone else. It's obvious, though, they did not understand childbirth. In some ways, it's right to fear childbirth, since it is a risky venture for the health of the mother and the baby. But it's not right to fear something that is normal and reoccurring for women. It is certainly not right to bring this bias into modernity, where we attempt to live in an egalitarian world. However, even in modernity, childbirth can still be a mystery. As many of you may know, my wife and I have struggled with having a second child. A few months ago, we suffered from a late-term miscarriage, and doctors are flummoxed as to why. And this surprisingly gives me a sense of compassion towards those ancient priests who had no idea what was going on when it came to childbirth. If modern medicine cannot explain why we miscarried, what chance do these ancient priests have to understanding a thing about childbirth? And I believe for many of us, childbirth will always remain a mystery. There are just a depth of it that we cannot penetrate with understanding. And like I mentioned, some people react to mystery with fear. But it's my hope that we can react to it with compassion. Judaism really suffers for not having women authors in our Torah, in our Tanakh, and our Talmud. Thank goodness we live in a time and a place where we can easily discover the feminist perspective of our environment. And that perspective has again and again helped me to respond to these mysteries with compassion. Anyways, I had a lot of help writing this sermon, and I want to show you two resources that I heavily rely on. The first one is this one. It's called The Torah, A Woman's Commentary. A number of you have donated this to our synagogue. And wouldn't it be wonderful if we had more of this commentary than any other in our congregation? Wink, wink. And then the other resource that I rely heavily on is this one, which is called Tears of Sorrow, Seeds of Hope, Jewish Spiritual Companion for Infertility and Pregnancy Loss. I have found this to be a very useful tool to help me and others understand and get through pregnancy loss. Anyways, I will have both of them linked to the comment section of hopefully this live stream. Well, we're going to move back now, I imagine, to the Misha Berach. Thank you for listening, and I hope to see you again very soon.